My name is Julie Jager, and I'm in Minot, North Dakota. And we have three of us that are going to do some little mini presentations, but we want to make sure you feel comfortable, asking questions in the chat. So if you scroll over towards the bottom or the top of your screen, you should be able to open up a chat box. And it's funny because we say these things now because even just 10 months ago, not too many people were super familiar with using Zoom and online platforms, and now it's just kind of the thing we do. So anyway, I don't ever want to sound condescending, but we will be using the chat. So, but anyway, what we want to do is keep it very open, and please use the chat for questions. Anne and I will help monitor when Beth is speaking, and vice versa. We'll each take care of each other. And then the other thing I want to make sure you know is that our website, which you see in front of you, North Dakota Association for Gifted, for those of you who may come in who are not members, we're going to come back to this at the end of the evening. But basically, NDAGC it's a fairly young organization, but we're very proud of some of the work that we've been doing. We have a series of webinars. They are actually available for credit right now. And I'm going to move to the next screen, maybe. Let me see if this is going to shift for me. Here we go. And so right below on that opening slide or screen, you can also find information on how to register for credit as well as how to sign up and register to become a member. And it's kind of a dual thing. If you're not a member, that part of your subscription for a class, if you decide to take that, is also part of your registration fee. The other thing I'll mention is our webinar recordings are available for our members only, but if you're interested to see what they're like, there's a link here that will take you to a follow-up, and we'll have this particular session will be recorded, and we'll find a place that we will put that as well on this set of links. The last thing I'm going to mention is I have two of our fellow board members who are going to be working with me tonight. Beth Ustenko is from Fargo. She's going to talk to you about HyperDocs and Slidesmania and some G Suite tools and how they can interact. We wanted to share a few things that were good for both virtual as well as face-to-face learning. So we took some of the things that we had been using with that in mind and moving that forward. Ann Duxer is also in Fargo, and she talked to us last spring about a really great unit that she had kind of pulled together from what she used to do face-to-face and now is doing it in the virtual format again, so it can be done either way, but philosophy for kids. And I'm excited to hear more about that as well. And then I'll be doing some critical thinking math activities that you could do tomorrow. They're super easy. My kids loved them. My parents loved them. And then some web resources that are also easy to integrate both online and face-to-face. So with that, Miss Beth, I'm going to stop sharing. And again, please feel free to use the chat, introduce yourself, ask your questions, and we're going to let Beth get started.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. And I am very unpracticed this evening. So this will be very informal, I should say. And here, of course, I even just have our website pulled up. So I apologize. I just want to share with you just a couple of tools that I have found to be helpful. In Fargo, we are using a combination of Google Classroom and Seesaw as we push out our lessons into a virtual format. And so the first thing I have to share with you is something called HyperDocs, which I was introduced to over a workshop that I did this summer. And so the basic idea with a HyperDoc is that it is a digital lesson plan that you can design as a teacher and then give it to your student. So it works very well with the G Suite, and it looks very much like a Google Doc. And so what I did, and the example that I have to show you, is actually I took one of the Jacob's Ladders activities. And I know probably many of you who are gifted educators are familiar with the Jacob's Ladders. And I recreated it into this HyperDoc format. So this is set up as like an interactive notebook. So all of the thinking that the students do is on the left-hand side of the story or the HyperDoc, and then the work or the thinking that the students will do is set up on the right-hand side. So this very first section is to get them thinking about their prior knowledge, and so they can type their answer in on this side. And then what was nice about this is you're actually able to link in. And so I actually recorded myself doing a reading of the story and have it linked here so they can have the story read to them first. And then we're on the bottom rung of the ladder, so sequencing is what they had them do first. And what is really cool about this is if you put a text box, like a single cell table, I should say, into these, you can go up into insert image, go down to camera, and then, oh, it doesn't work when you're on Zoom because your camera's already being used. But if I was not on Zoom, it would show me and I could take a picture. So it's really neat how students can just insert their work in a digital format by taking a picture there. And so this just continues on through the different rungs of the ladder. I know I inverted a little bit, so I know Jacob's ladders, usually we start down on the bottom, but for this format, I went more sequentially as we work our way to higher level thinking, we're going down towards the bottom. So that's just one way that I took a curriculum that I would have used in a more of a paper pencil format, you know, prior to COVID, and how I was able to translate it to something that was virtual using these hyperdocs. And I just wanted to show you, actually, there are a lot of resources on this site beyond what you can create your own on your own. So there are templates. So they have a number of different templates already there ready for you to go. So if I click into this basic lesson template, they take you through, you know, the different parts of a lesson and kind of lead you through like this, you know, to engage your students at the beginning. Here's what you could put in, and then you could move to the explore phase, the explain, the apply. So that would take you through a basic lesson. And then actually, they had some really great sample hyperdocs that are already ready to go. And as you can see, they're organized to a multitude of different places. But if I go into elementary, for example, and Julie, I think you've mentioned this before, doing like words or memoirs, 6-word memoirs. And so here's one that's already set up and ready to go for you on the hyperdocs. So there's a lot there. I don't think I've even explored everything that's there for me on the hyperdocs. So great resource that's there for you. And you just go to hyperdocs.co is the website for that. And then the next resource was a fantastic find that was shared to me by one of my fellow gifted services teachers in Fargo, Julia Warner. And she shared with us, if I can get to it, I'm sorry, Zoom is not cooperating, my drop down. Okay, oop. Every time I go up there, the little screen share pops down on me. There we go. The other one is Slides Mania. And this is a similar idea to hyperdocs, I think, because it's a way that you can organize some of your lessons and your learning into a virtual format, but this is more Google Slides based. So again, they have interactive templates that you can choose from and that you can edit. And the one that I found most useful actually are these choice boards and games. You know, just in Gifted, we like to give our students a lot of choice when they're choosing things. And so I'm actually going to show you how I use this file cabinet, Slides Mania template, to actually put together information for my students for a writing choice board project that they're working on. So once you get all of the basic information in and it's ready to go for your students, you can have them take a look at it in the present mode. And if I go here, so like this is the basic beginning screen, and then each of these file cabinets if they're in the present mode and they click in it, they kind of open up like a file cabinet would. And so the premise of this choice board for my students is that they are able to work with writing of choice that they would like to work on. And so I sectioned it off. In each of these drawers, there's 2 different choices of either wordplay or story genres, or what I call unique stories, or digital storytelling, which Julie's other network that she mentioned, I got some ideas this summer from a workshop that I went to through her network. And so for each one of these, there's both a model text and then a writing guide. So that's really the student expectation, is that they get to choose what they want to write, but then they need to look at the model text for whatever they choose. And so I was able to put the links in there for the model text. And then they also need to read through and take a look at the writing guide. And so I was able to put all the information for the writing guides in this as well. And then from there, once they have read the model text and the writing guide, then they try that writing themselves. So they're basically teaching themselves a type of writing. And I have a lot of my students right now are actually working on these found poems, and they're really cool. They're created from a text from a page, and we've really loved this one here, because as my students are trying to make these found poems right now, I hear them saying, "Oh, this is hard." And I say, "I'm doing my job." And then we look back at this example one, and it says, "Anyone can scribble out words. The clever part is knowing which words to leave." So this is actually, having this in this virtual format has worked really well. And I was thankful to be able to have this resource to do it, because in the past, when I've done this unit with my students, we've had this all on paper. We've had file folders that we've shared. And so this really allowed me to rethink, how could I get this information into my students' hands in a more of a virtual format. So from there, I am going to stop sharing, and I don't know if people have some questions about those, or if they want to see more, or if we want to move on to the next person.
So Beth, with your slide, with the good Lord, I can't even think.
Slides Mania?
Yeah, with Slides Mania, I'm trying to say
Yeah.
slide drawers. Could you, so when you went to that one slide, like when you open it and you click on that link, could you just kind of show us one of those?
Oh,
like
sure.
the file
Yeah.
and the link? Just I want to see what where it takes you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go into the digital storytelling, because actually, so like one of the choices, the other most popular has been this one, which I got from that digital storytelling network seminar from the summer. So it was a choose your own adventure story. So the model text, actually, this was kind of a stretch. It was really hard to model one of these types of stories. I'm not sharing my volume there, so you all can't hear that. But this was kind of a mini tutorial, but also an example. So when I clicked the link, it took them right there. And then if I click here on this, it puts the one file back. And then this was the writing guide, and I actually got this. It was shared to me by the presenter. So it takes them right into a presentation that will let them get started with it. Kind of explains to them again of how they're going to do it. They're actually able to get into this and print off this template if they'd like to. And then to get started, the sample template was right there, and they just make a copy. So I actually have a couple of these that are going to get presented on Monday, I think. So we'll see how those go. But they've done a great job figuring this one out. I wasn't sure how the digital ones would go because I hadn't done them before, but they've been pretty popular with my students.
And Beth, your school is hybrid, it's not face-to-face completely yet, correct?
We're 4 days a week. And honestly, the reason why I decided to go with this virtual format was, like I said, I had to work through the challenge of thinking in the past, I would have had both the writing guide and the sample text in a file folder that we shared. And we can't do that anymore. And then just the other thing is, who knows, I might be gone a day.
Right.
And so this still allows them to have the information to work on it, even if I'm not there or they're not there. Some of our students are having to stay home for periods of time. So it's been a really nice option to have the information virtual in this way.
Nice, nice. I guess I just want to make sure everyone knows if you have a question and I put in there or a suggestion, if you've used HyperDocs, if you would share what you've done with them, just kind of give us an idea. I think that's what we want these forums to be, as a place of exchanging information as well. We're here to kind of get a few things started and have you think about some stuff. And I really appreciate that, Beth. I was so anxious. She showed me her file drawer thing, but we didn't really get into it. So that's why I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I saw it, because I want to make sure people know about those things. So that literally is just one of the templates within your Slides Mania. Wow.
Yes. Yep. And so, if I can share again and take you back to that website, there are a number of different templates available on the Slides Mania. I suppose I have to exit out of this. So if I go back to, nope, there we go, Slides Mania. Yeah, there's just a number of different type of templates that are available to you there.
Cool. Thank you. Any questions? Please feel free. Go ahead, Beth. I'm sorry.
I was going to give one warning. So here's the only thing I noticed about Slides Mania is when you think you found the one you want, it's really tempting to click over here. And this is actually an ad.
Oh.
So I ended up hitting like my district's like, I don't think you can download this. And I was like, well, wait a second. And so I did message my coworker, Julia. She's like, no, I didn't have to do that. So just be careful. And yeah, don't go for the green flashing click me, because that's not actually like, this is the ad.
Okay.
So if you go down, it's right here, open in Google
Oh.
Slides. That's how you find it.
So Gwen is sharing that she uses HyperDocs for projects like creating a time-lapse Pechakucha with 4th and 5th graders, researching careers for 6th and 7th graders. So, I mean, the HyperDocs, there's so many different uses, but I was so excited to have Beth share, because I think people are a little nervous about maybe getting started with some things when they hear the word. But I mean, you've
Yeah.
jumped in with both feet and it's working really well. So I appreciate that. And I know Gwen uses HyperDocs a lot.
Yeah.
So Beth, just to clarify, this is Kim. Sorry,
Yes,
I had to eat supper, so I decided to put my video off. But to access the HyperDocs, you just go to hyperdocs.co and then you're able to download it, or do you it's on there?
So HyperDocs is a little bit different. I think I needed to make a free account, but I signed in with Google. So if you have G Suite at your school, that makes it pretty easy, because you can just make it with Google and it's free. And then from there, well, here, let's just walk through that, and I will sign in with my Google. Okay, and so then from there, like, let's say I wanted to use that one template. I believe I just click into it and it goes, you know how G Suite, like when something's shared with you, see it, it just pulls right up in my G Suite.
Okay.
Nice.
So,
all right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Great. Thank you, Kim, for jumping in. That's what we want this to be. All right. Do we still have Ann? Yep, I see Ann here. So, well, Beth, thank you so much again. Appreciate it. And she'll be around. So if you have any other questions for her, just make sure you pop them in the chat and we'll have Ann introduce herself and get started with hers. Thanks.
All right. I am Ann Dukeshire. I'm the coordinator of the program for Fargo Public Schools and Gifted. And I am going to just throw up my PowerPoint here that will help me walk through. 1 second. I had it up and okay. Not sure why it's not. You see my screen? Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. Okay, so I came up with a title, Teaching Kids to Think Like a Philosopher, to just highlight a curricular resource that has been around since 2001 that I had in my stuff, but probably never paid that much attention to for whatever reason. There's so many great resources and curricular resources in gifted education until Stacy Anderson brought it up last spring, right before we had to figure out how to, while we were trying to figure out how to serve our students virtually when we all went home and worked from home. And so this is called Philosophy for Kids by David A. White, found on Amazon for about $32. And Stacy had it. She said, here, take a look at this, because the lessons inside of here are short, but they're pretty powerful. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've seen this before. And anyway, we ended up using it as a team. It was just worked really, really well. So what I wanted to do tonight, and rather rapidly, is not only highlight this as a resource, but as an illustration of why I think it is sound, quality, good curriculum for gifted children. So I think it passes the litmus test for that. And I'm going to explain why. So I have my little presentation here divided into two parts. Like in general, how can you tell if something is of a high quality? Like, how do you know if it's good enough for gifted kids? And, just because the cover says it's good, or those who are marketing it with that title, doesn't mean that the resource is pushing our students' brains to do important work. And then the second, my second goal here is, what is an example of something that passes that litmus test? And so that's why I want to highlight the Philosophy for Kids for you a little bit and walk you through what a lesson looks like, because it's good in my estimation. And why is it good? Okay, so just to start out with, how do you know if something is good enough? And I think for me, I have to go back to Bloom's taxonomy to answer that question. And this is new Bloom's. So there's stuff that we have to remember at the bottom of Bloom, the facts, the details about things. And then as you move up in Bloom's taxonomy through to understand and apply and analyze, the level of cognitive rigor gets higher and higher. The thinking gets weightier, and that's what we want for our students, right? We want to push them past just factual recall into understanding. And so on the right here, I just kind of summarized this, and this is my voice speaking, like what I believe about curriculum in general, and that I didn't know when I was in my first 4 years of college. I don't think that I was taught this, but what I believe to be true now is that we spend way too much time on teaching kids facts. Not that they're not important, they are, but we spend too much time on the remembering part before we bring them to what does it mean to deeply understand something. So we kind of keep that back from them, and unknowingly or unwittingly we do that, keeping them back from kind of a conceptual understanding. And so what happens then is that kids don't get really connected into what big ideas are of the learning soon enough. And we might even erroneously think that we can't get there. We can't push them into bigger, deeper, more rigorous ideas until they understand the facts, the dates, the algorithms, the places, the definitions of vocabulary, and so on. But in my training, through in Gifted, I feel like this idea of big ideas and getting kids connected to them, it's the essence of learning. And if they're riveting and engaging and provocative with kids, and we can frame them in a way that is such, then we create this real energy with students, because they will want to ask more questions and they will beg for more details, because at the end of the day, it helps them and us make sense of the world. Okay, that's a lot to say. Here's a couple of examples of what I mean by that. Memorizing math facts. Okay, this is important, right? For the sake of efficiency, memory work is important. But if we only hunker down in the memorizing of facts, we're missing the bigger picture. And a lot of curriculum, most good math curriculum, will spend time teaching students that mathematical facts really are based in this idea of that math is a language. So I just fleshed out some riveting ideas about mathematics. It's a language like other languages are, like French or Spanish or Portuguese. And it's a language that defines the universe. And it's a language of a lot of things, but one of the things it's a language of is patterns. And well, all languages have patterns, as it turns out, if you compare one language to another. And all languages really serve the purpose of helping communicate. And so the provocative part is helping kids uncover the patterns so that they can understand them in a way that helps them communicate to describe the world. And where math is concerned, it's a universe world, and mathematics is a universal language. So I just threw in this little graphic of Pascal because this triangle is pretty magnificent, and can be used in many, many ways. Okay, so while memorizing math facts like 3 times 5 is important, what it really means is that there's this pattern here, and that when kids uncover that pattern, it's pretty engaging. So there's multiplication is a repetitive pattern of addition, and knowing that pattern helps us understand what multiplication is. So there's the understanding, and let's just memorize it. Oh, by the way, remember it, because that's more efficient. But I don't think we can start with just remember that 5 times 3 is 15 until we understand and teach kids what that really means. Okay, so that's a simple example. And all that to say that if remembering is going to have any meaning at all, we have to understand it first, because the understanding gives meaning. And if we understand it, we're likely to kind of keep it in our brains. But if we don't understand it, we're really likely to forget it. Okay, so let's move on a little bit back to Bloom here, because I think maybe another myth might be that if kids are gifted, we can move up in Bloom. If kids are struggling, we maybe can't move up in Bloom. We should stay down at the lower levels. And that's not true either. We can tier things, or we can differentiate them so that all kids can do the heavy lifting of Bloom's taxonomy, regardless of where they're at in terms of their aptitude or their ability. But we just have to know where the domain is rooted in. So math, 3 times 5 is 15 is the fact, but it's rooted in a domain that of mathematics, of this language. And I think that all kids would be excited to know that anyway. Okay, so now those are my words, but my words are really coming from people that I've studied over the years, that the giants that are saying what I've just basically said in a few slides. Wiggins and McTighe, Understanding by Design. Renzulli Lapine wrote the Parallel Curriculum Model, Lynn Erickson, Concept-Based Curriculum. So there's lots of great sources out there. Some not so great, but lots of really good ones. Here's just a few really important people, I think, around that. And now I'm just going to move into, let's look at this oldie but really goodie. So what makes this one good? Philosophy for Kids. One of the things I love about it is that it doesn't start with remember, it starts at evaluate. And so I'm going to unpack a lesson for you in just a second. But it has kids evaluate, and then it moves them to analyze, and then to apply, and taking those things, so they evaluate, analyze, apply to create understanding, so that they can then turn around and take that understanding and apply it to a novel situation. So this is pretty unique because it doesn't start at the bottom of who was Plato, when was he born, what did he believe, what are some words that we need to know. It actually starts with, well, some provocative questions. So here's the table of contents of this resource. And question number 12 is the one I'm going to unpack for you. What makes something you say true? Okay, so here's what the lesson looks like. And it's really like 3 pages. So lesson 12 is 3 pages long. It's probably something you could do with students. I'm thinking even as young as grade 2, possibly. I don't know about grade 1, but I'm thinking even 2nd graders might want to grapple with some of these ideas. The lesson about truth starts out with, it gives students these statements to evaluate, are these true or false? So they would go through and read each one. If many people believe that something is true, then that something must be true. In other words, if a lot of people believe it, well, then it's true. So then the students have to say, well, is that true or false? Or the second statement, if you say something and I believe it, then whatever you said is true. If you say something and I believe it, then whatever you said is true. So if someone else says something and I believe is true, then it must be true. Is that true? You can see where the rigor is here. You're really kind of grappling with some pretty heavy ideas. Or if I say something and I believe what I say is true, then it's true, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is Aristotle. I don't know if he exactly looked like that, but it was a little cartoon I found of him. And so the next thing the kids are going to do now is read a little bit about him. So this is kind of down in the remember category. There was this philosopher named Aristotle. Here's when he lived, long, long time ago. And he said, it is by the facts of a case, by their being or not being so, that a statement is called true or false. So Aristotle made this statement, and then it goes on to say, this is called correspondence theory. It's a theory that says only propositions can be true or false. And second, that propositions, sentences that assert or deny something, are true when they correspond to facts, to the way that things are in the world. So that's just something that you'd probably have kids read to understand, so that they can then turn around and take this as a filter to filter through some statements here. Okay, so here's a couple of statements. This is the next little section of this lesson. So I'm taking the first proposition, if many people believe that something is true, then that something must be true. And another statement, the earth is round. And we're just going to see, how do these measure up? Are they both true? Is one true and one false? How does that work with the correspondence theory of truth? Okay, so on the bottom, I've got what those two statements are that Aristotle is saying that we have to take things through. Okay, so let's consider this one, the earth is round. Okay, that would be something I think young kids could get their minds around really easily. Is that true or false? Because naturally, we'd all say, well, that's true. Why? Well, because we know the earth is round or spherical. We know it, science, we've got pictures of it, right? We've been there, or we've been able to look at it from space. Okay, so therefore it's an observable fact. The proposition the earth is round is true because it's a proposition, it's a statement. It's true because it corresponds to the way things are. And we know, according to Aristotle, that that it can't be both true and false. It has to be one or the other in order to be a truth. Okay, well, we know it's not false. So there we're applying his theory to a proposition. So this is a trickier one. So now we're going to move away from something concrete like the earth is round to, well, look at, if many people believe that something is true, then that something must be true. Is that true? So you can imagine you have that conversation with kids. Just because people believe something is true, does that make it true? I think this is very timely for the world that we live in today. But even if you go back to an example of, well, there was a time when people believed that the earth wasn't round. They believed it was flat. And a lot of people believe that. So just because a lot of people believe that the earth was flat, does that make it true? Right? So we're using the correspondence theory to kind of analyze this statement. And then you could throw in that example with kids and they'd be like, oh, well, right. You know, a long time ago, people did think the earth was flat, but then they learned otherwise. So this statement is probably false. Okay, and there's the application of that. And so you could see where even just going through one statement like with kids, that one statement could probably take some time. And then for further thought, a person could go through or teach kids to analyze statements 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. They get heavier along the way. So again, you're taking them through evaluate, analyze, apply to create an understanding so that they could turn around and apply this idea to something novel. Okay, and then just I'm getting to the end here, but so here's my little 2 cents for why I think this is a strong resource. Okay, so I was thinking about it like as a balance scale, because I think that here you've got these upper ends of blooms where you're teaching kids to evaluate, analyze, apply, understand, and create. And you're spending a lot of time in this zone, right? A lot of time getting kids' minds and critical thinking wrapped around what is truth and logically reasoning that out. And the whole time that's happening, you're talking about pretty big words like, well, what's a proposition and what is correspondence and what's a theory, right? And we didn't spend a lot of time talking about the remember stuff, which was, well, who's Aristotle? What's some of that vocabulary? When did he live? And who was he? But I think that because you're spending so much time thinking about what this guy from a long, long ago was saying, kids are going to remember who he was. You're going to remember who Aristotle was. And they may not remember the dates exactly, but they'll just remember it was a long, long time ago. And so I think those facts kind of naturally come along as you're dealing with the deeper thinking. Okay. And then at the end here, I just wanted to point out last thing. In this table of contents, you can see all these questions, right? 40 questions grouped by values, knowledge, reality, critical thinking. These are concepts, right? Upper layers of bloom. I could see a lot of differentiation potential with this. I think, you know, kids who are gifted and sharp maybe could be grappling with many of these questions, or inside of one lesson, just like the one I was showing you, they could be going through 5 different ideas of truth, or maybe a student could only really have time for one, but getting through one deeply is still pushing critical thinking. So anyway, that is the end of that, my little show and tell for that book. And I just want to also say thanks to Stacy Anderson for bringing it back to our attention, because it worked out really great last spring to take these little questions and push them out in a virtual way for kids and keep kind of gifted going when we weren't able to meet with them face to face.
So Anne, I have a question. This is Julie. So about how long did it take you to go through one of those, out of curiosity, if I was planning to work with a student or a group?
I think that you could, I think that you could easily do one in a sitting with kids, 30 or 40 minutes. But is Stacy still with us? Stacy Anderson?
I think so.
Stacy, would you
I
want to
am
maybe, do
still here.
you want to speak to,
Yeah,
if I put you on the spot?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, you know how it goes with these kids, how, how, how far you go down the rabbit hole with them, but definitely you could get one done within one session, or you might take the second session to wrap it up and maybe apply it. Like,
Mhm.
Yehan, I'm thinking of like I have stayed away from the election this year, which is not typical of me on an election year, but oh, the question of truth and what's happening right now, right?
Yes.
Stacey, that's exactly where I went. I thought, boy, is this ever a timely question right now?
Oh, and I have avoided it because of time, and you feel crunched this year as you're playing, working with your kids. But yes, you definitely can tackle one of these, but you could also spend, a week on
Right.
one, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and the
It worked.
applications are all over the place for what you could take and do with it as well. So that's
Right.
Mhm.
And it did work well virtually, like Ann said this spring. We did spend like a week learning board on just one story.
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. And you don't want to go through it too quickly. I mean, because there's so much value in what just that whole thinking,
Right. Right.
that process. Our kids don't get an opportunity to do that in regular ed, and it just doesn't happen.
And that would be, thank you for that, Julie. They don't get enough opportunity. And I would even argue that this is the kind of stuff that yes, it's good for gifted kids, but really is kind of thinking most of our kids should be doing and aren't.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can I just interrupt? Sorry, this is Yehan, and I just wanted to add, thank you so much, Anne, for kind of explaining, kind of moving through the levels and kind of putting emphasis on kind of how much work it takes to really understand something deeply, and that there's so many pathways to get there. And I remember reading something about Renzulli, and he wrote quite extensively about really, although we list understanding as level 2, it really to truly understand something, it takes a lot of work, because if you really understand the elements of something, and this is where transfer learning has to happen. You have to understand it before you can really take it and manipulate it and move it. But I think the diagram that you just showed in terms of the moving through the different layers, kind of getting back to understanding and then creating, really kind of shows how much work it takes. And yes, Renzulli really, he was kind of criticizing some of them. I think he was making a comment that sometimes we do not value that component as much as we should, because it is really important.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Renzulli is the reason I know any of it at all. He's the one that started. I did not learn this in my undergrad about curriculum, but he's the reason. And Jan Lapine, the one who taught curriculum for gifted, those two together wrote a book, Parallel Curriculum Model. And when you have to design something that way, to that standard, really changes your thinking about what does it mean to understand something deeply. So,
I mean, isn't this true as teachers too, that we understand something more when we have to teach it? I mean, you have to just actively engage it and make it messy and manipulate it. And likewise with students, right? So they're going to have to manipulate all these different levels to truly understand the concept that we want them to remember. So thank you, Anne.
All right. Thanks, Anne. I really appreciate it, because I know we talked about it earlier, and it's nice to see what it all entails. So
yeah, I'm grateful to Stacy for remembering about it. So you're welcome.
all right. Well, we're going to go through the next portion rather quickly as well, just because we have many things to share. But once again, please use that chat box, ask questions, and I just need to access it here. Where did it run away to now? Hang on a minute, because I need to be able to see. And I forgot to mention earlier that if you want to participate in these little mini activities, you might want to grab a sheet of paper and a pencil. If not, you can do it in your brain, which we found was kind of hard. And one of the reasons I wanted to share these, after a webinar last year, Anne, Beth, and myself, and I don't even know if there was anyone else with us, we just started kind of going through some things, and I was sharing a couple things, and we said we should do this at a session sometime. So this is where we're at. But anyway, these are all critical higher order thinking activities. I'm going to look at math and specifically, and then a couple of others. And the first one, and if you've done these before, just, feel free to sit back and ignore, but this is one of my favorites. And I'm sharing this with you because it takes absolutely nothing for preparation. The kids can do it on their own. And the other thing that I will mention is I have found that my parents love to do this as well. So I need to get my video on. Here we go, so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. So right now, I'm going to talk about garbage math, and all you need are 30 cards. So I normally had sets of index cards, and I literally had them clipped together in baggies or whatever, so my students could do this on their own, or we would do it in large group or small groups. But the objective is to create the greatest or the smallest answer. You get to choose up front. Your cards contain 3 of each digit, 0 through 9. You create the template of the problem as you're doing it. For example, this is all my kids would do. They'd take a sheet of paper. This would be considered our template. You must include at least one throwaway. Thus, it became the name garbage math came from my students, not from me, because we were throwing things away. Just when you decide what you're doing, decide if the answer should be the least or the greatest, then you randomly draw the cards. So I would shuffle all the cards and then I would pick one at a time. Now, here's the one thing I will mention. My students know, because we go through this very, very carefully, that they cannot wait to see what the next number is before they place that number in a spot. If they do, I will simply come by and let them know that their time with that session is probably done, and I'll just turn their paper over. And the reason I mention that is we have perfectionism like crazy with our students. We know that. And so our little perfectionists like to win and they like to be best. And so they will sometimes try to do that. So I just make sure they know they can't. And then the other thing that we always say is you can't erase or move your answer. Once you place it, you're done. And so these are also good lessons in perseverance for our kids, because they don't always, they want to make sure they've got it exactly right. So anyway, we're going to go ahead, and what I'm going to show you first are a couple of different ways that you can set things up and why I love this. So for example, I can use this with littles, even with this top one here, where I could have 3 numbers, comma, 3 numbers, and then my throwaway. Here's my one throwaway over here on the right. Now, I'm going to randomly show them 7 digits. They have to place them, and the objective, and we can decide this together. Do we want the largest number or the smallest number? Now think about what their thinking is going to have to be just for that in itself. Where do I place? So now we're teaching some things on place value. We're looking at where we're going to place it to get the maximum use out of our numbers. And my thinking has to totally reverse itself if I'm going for the largest versus the smallest. And then when do I decide to throw that 1 digit away? What do I want to get rid of? So there's a lot of thinking up front. And then as they're placing them, they're manipulating their thoughts as well. Or I might take 3 digits over 3 digits. I could add them together. I can have 2 throwaways. And I can throw these digits away anytime during that. But once I throw that digit away, I don't get it back. I might subtract. Now, what's really fun with subtraction is we know that there's 3 zeros in this deck of cards. So what would happen if that 0, if I place that 0 in the top left corner? And I have second graders sometimes will say, and I don't necessarily do 3 digits minus 3 digits with them. It might be 2 digits minus 1 digit. But all of a sudden they'll say, can you get minus numbers? It's like they know that there's such a thing. And so we're teaching things about negatives. We're doing all kinds of different things with that. You could also do multiplication. What I like about doing things, if I set it up in a direction like left to right, and then they have to, when they're doing the math, and they're going to have to set it up and actually put it together in the right way. You could do fractions, you can do division, you could do an algebra problem. It doesn't matter. I've done everything with this. So I have used this from first grade with things like place value, adding simple numbers, all the way up when I was teaching algebra. So I mean, it's very versatile that way. So basically, when we're looking at this, if you want to do, we'll do one real quick if you want to. And if you want to put 3 digits over 3 digits and 1 throwaway, and we're going to subtract. And go ahead if you want to practice this with me. If you don't, if we decide nobody wants to, we'll just move on to the next thing. But I just want to give you an idea of how this can work. And then the other thing that I want to make sure you realize too is they're doing math and they don't mind. It's kind of crazy. They're just math. So 3 digits over 3 digits, 1 throwaway, and your first digit is a 7. So go ahead and place that. Make sure you got it placed. And then your next one is a 4. Place it. And then we're going to have a 3. Place it. Your next digit is a 6. Whoop, I got 2 picked up there. Place it. Oh, we forgot to say, do we want the highest or the lowest? You guys didn't stop me. Okay, well, that's kind of, well, we'll just see what we get. Then we have a 0. And I think we have 1 left. We have a 1. Now, I don't know if anybody's playing, and if you're not, that's fine. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You need 1 more. Here's an 8. Okay, so it's very important that you decide if we're going for the greatest or the smallest difference or sum or whatever it is. What does anybody want to tell me what their total was? If they did it?
I have 111. I think we should go for the smallest.
All right, yeah, 111, smallest. Does anybody else have a number?
I was going for the biggest. I got 727.
Okay. Anyone else? 727, and what'd you say, Beth?
111. Oh man, I had to throw away my 8.
Okay. All right, let's do this just so that you can see the thought process, or not that you guys can't, but let's do a multiplication one. Let's just do 3 digits over 2 digits and 1 throwaway. So 3 digits on the top, 2 digits on the bottom, 1 throwaway. Now my question is, let's go for the smallest answer, and it's multiplication. 3 digits over 2, 1 throwaway. So it would look just like this, but with multiplication.
So, Julie, do you play this online with your students, like your distance students?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Just like this?
Just like this. I literally have a sheet of paper. I show them what we're doing. They've got paper, and then I have my cards, and I show them just like I'm showing you.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny because I said, it doesn't matter what math concept we're doing, we can figure out a way to do this. But
Okay.
it was so interesting. Even with my 3rd and 4th graders, we would start out every year just with some place value things. And when I had 3rd graders, at first I'd say, okay, how many of you, do you guys talk about the millions or anything yet? And they're kind of, oh, whatever. So there's so much vocabulary that we're going through. We talk about the, how do we name it? And the other thing with the place value one, in order to get credit for it, they have to be able to say it correctly. So we practice that. There's just things that we can do with it. Okay, we're going to go through this real quick because I have 2 other activities and I want to get through them. So your first digit. Oh, we're going for smallest, correct? Yeah, 3 digits over 2, multiplication, 1 throwaway, smallest, 9. Place it.
Going back to truth, Julie, do you ever let them share the screen and show you their work to see if they're being legit?
That was the one thing that was kind of tough when it came to virtual, but we always, we mentioned it would be good if they had a calculator handy, even though I wanted them to do the math. But I will tell you this, when we did it face to face, everybody's checking everyone else. And well, here's the other thing though I should mention, because what we do is if they give me an answer, then they have to tell us where their digits are. And I apologize for that. I missed another part. They would have to tell us as a team where they put their digits, and then we do it together to check it. So thank you.
That's what I was wondering, like, where's the accountability?
And then the other thing, and we'll probably skip this next one just because I want to make sure we get through the others, and I apologize for not mentioning. Then we ask, is there an even higher or lower number we could have gotten with those same digits? So we take a look at what we found to be the highest or the lowest, whatever we were going for. And then as a team, as a group, we'll say, well, could we have gotten a smaller number? Or could we have gotten, and so then they talk about where should they have moved those numbers to actually get the greatest or the smallest. Does that make sense? So we analyze, we get back to that part where we take a look at those digits and we're really saying, okay, if I had these 7 digits and I didn't have to worry about placing it and not worrying, I could place them and get this for my answer. But at first we go through it and just play it as a game. And I think for time's sake, if we have time, we can come back to this, but I want to show you the other ones too, because they're equally good. Okay, questions on that. But again, anything you make up and the kids, they will just do math and math and math. The other one we called bowling math, and again, has nothing to do with bowling. I've been doing this one. I did this one when Ann talked about all kids. This was a staple in my classroom when I was teaching 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and even middle school. But it's definitely something my gifted kids love too. Bowling is something that I found afterwards, but I have taught it to many classroom teachers and they use it with their kids all the time. So basically, we take 3 dice, or you take 1 die and roll it 3 times. You need 3 digits, and we like to go from the 1 to the 6 because that gives us just what we need to do the problems. And then you have to try to figure out using those 3 digits, and you must use all 3 and any symbols that you would like. You manipulate those numbers to get the answers 1 through 10. Now, if you want to square a number, you have to have a 2, and then that's how you use it. So you can only use each digit once, but you must use all 3. The other thing that I'll mention is if you can get all 10, we call it a strike. If you can't, and my kids will work and work and work until they just know they can't. Then what we do is we take 1, we choose which one we want to re-roll, and then if we can complete the grid, we call it a spare. This one in garbage math, when I would have open houses for parents and kids or invite parents to the classrooms, and I would say, what would you like to do with your folks? Give me one activity we can do together. 9 times out of 10, it was bowling or garbage math, or can we do both? So this is what some of our grids look like. And you'll notice one day, the one on the left, we rolled a 3, a 3, and a 3. And here's the deal, it was groans. Oh no. And so we got just about everything. And my kids, the funny part is we had just talked about cubed roots when we were doing our calendar math. And so they realized that the cubed root of 3 divided by 3 would be 1. And then they can use fractions. And they can use whatever. So we ended up re-rolling and we got a 4 because we couldn't get them all. So once we re-rolled, we were able to get everything else. And then we called that a spare. On the right, we had a 1, a 2, and a 3. And initially we had tons and tons of groans again. But you'll notice they were very quick to figure out multiple ways. And so I give them whatever we come up with. If somebody else has another idea, we write as many possibilities as we can so they can see the many different options to make those answers. Like 2 minus 1 times 3, 3 squared minus 1, all kinds of options there. If you notice the one on the left, we had a 5, a 4, and a 4. And we never completed this one, but I thought it was interesting to see what the kids came up with. I love this one down here, the square root of 4 times 4 plus 5. And this one on number 10, 4 divided by the square root of 4 times 5. So again, we're working with a lot of really higher level math. And these are 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders because we talk square root when we do our calendar math. So the kids are familiar with it and they can use that symbol. But the 5th graders certainly are much more fluid with it than the others, the younger kids. Here we had a 1, a 6, and a 6. You'll notice this one's a spare because we could not get everything. So we ended up re-rolling one of the 6s. Okay. So if you want to try this real quick, I'm going to roll 3 digits and I'll pop them on the top and let's just see what you can come up with. And so we have a 6, a 4, and a 1. So let me change this to a 6, a 4, and a 1. All right, those are your 3 digits. Remember, you can use any symbol. See what you can come up with 1 through 10.
You want us to tell them to you?
You can tell them to us. Tell me what you have.
Okay, 6 minus 4, and then 2 minus 1. So in
Okay.
parentheses, 6 minus 4 for number 1, and then minus 1.
Oh, okay. So 6 minus 4 minus 1. Gotcha. Just like that. Okay. Anybody have another number? And if we have more for this, you can. Yep, just shout them out. Tell me what the answer is, and then
6 minus 4 times 1 for 2.
or 2. Okay. And now here, then what we would want to do is, do we need any parentheses?
Yeah, it would have to be parentheses around 6.
Okay,
minus
and
4.
that's, again, we're learning a lot of math. Okay. Anyone else? I'm going to do 4.
Okay, 4.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. 4 minus 1. Oh, this is for 3.
Okay.
And then put that in parentheses and then, or no, how would I want to do it? 6 divided by 4 minus 1.
Okay. There we go.
My computer battery is going to die soon and I didn't bring my cord. So if I lose you guys, thank you so
Oh,
much. I know.
So a lot of times I'll get kids saying, can I go into the negatives? And I'm trying to think here if I did, these wouldn't work so well, but like if I did 4 minus 6, I'd be at -2 plus 1, I'd still be at -1. But they'll do that. They'll try doing some negative things too. So I had one here. Oh, here. So I'll do 6 minus 1 plus 4. Okay, and then I could do 6 minus the square root of 4 plus 1, or 6 divided by the square root of 4 plus 1. So that would be 6 divided by 2. That would be 4. I'm just going to write that here. 6. Right? All right, so you can see what happens with this, and I don't want to take too much time, but this is honestly the thinking that happens, and the kids oftentimes will work in small groups, but we do this as a whole class. And so they get really excited, and we did a lot of this online. So the kids are just either in the chat, they would write down what they came up with, and they'd type up as whatever, either in words, just like I did with number 4, but face-to-face or virtual, and they're doing math and doing math and doing math. And then it's just kind of fun, and it makes them think. So again, bowling, super simple, but one of those ones that I think if you get into it, does anybody have another one that they would like to add?
What did we do? 6 squared. What did I have? 6 squared divided by 4 plus 1. Is that 10?
6 squared would be 36 divided by 4. Yep, perfect. Oh,
It kind of reminds me of this game 24 that I used to have when I was a classroom teacher, and it was a card game, and they had to always get to the number 24 with the numbers on the cards.
the problem with that one is I don't have a 2 to square it. I could do a square of
Oh,
something.
we can't just square it.
You
Okay,
can't just square it. You can square root it.
gotcha.
Yeah. But I'm just
Fun.
trying to think. That wouldn't work. But the other thing that's interesting is the kids realize like you can do powers. So 1 to the 6th power plus 4 would be 5. see that? And they start to, when they learn that, then they use it all the time. It's like, oh my gosh, we can do this. Didn't know we could do that. Like even this, you could do 1 to the 10th power. So you're talking a lot of vocabulary, but you're also having a little bit of fun with it. So those are our 2 favorite games. I wanted to share them with you because you can do them. Takes no equipment, paper, dice, and thinking. And that's all there is to it. Questions? All right. Then we're going to go to another one of our favorites. I don't know how many of you are familiar with set. And if you set, we always had it, came in a box. It still comes in a box. You can buy it at Target, Barnes and Noble, $12 for the game. I give it for Christmas gifts all the time. And basically what when I start with my students, we just look at the cards and tell me what you see in the cards. Go ahead and use the chat, or you can shout it out. Tell me what you're noticing about the cards.
Colors,
Colors, right. What else?
shapes,
Shapes. Anything else?
Solids, stripes.
Yep. Fillings, right.
Some of them are empty. They're not filled.
Right. And then the last attribute is how many are on a card. So there's 4
Yeah, they're in
attributes.
groups.
It's either the color, or the attributes are color, shape, filling, and number. In order to get a set, you have to find 3 that have, you can say for each attribute, they're either all the same or all different. Now, that gets a little interesting, but I'm going to show you, I'm going to find a set here. Let's see. I could do this single purple squiggly, and then these 2 diamond purples, and these 3 oval purples. And then I would go through each attribute. Color, all the same. Shape, all different. Filling, all the same. Number, all different. So each attribute, they have to either be all the same or different for each attribute in order to be considered a set. Now, the interesting thing is, if you take a look in this upper left-hand corner, you have a green open diamond, 2 striped squiggle purples, and 3 solid ovals. That's a set. Because if their color is all different, their shape is all different, their number is all different, and their filling is all different. So I could say the word all for every one of those attributes. So in this puzzle every day, so we normally played it with cards, but then about probably 4 or 5 years ago, we found out that there was a daily set puzzle online. And what happened then is we started doing it. And what I loved about it, we could do it virtually. But the other thing we did is we were able to do it like when my kids were lining up for getting ready for lunch, or when they were getting ready to leave for the day. I'm trying to find my slide deck here. Hang on a minute. I gotta move this. Can't get a hold of my files. Hello. Okay. So I'm like dead in the water here. What in the world? I'm sorry, I can't get a hold of my, there we go, here we go. Okay, so when you go to set.com, setgame.com, and if you scroll down, it's gonna allow you to play a daily set game. Maybe. Where did I go? I'll tell you, this is not being nice to me right now. Gotta go back one. There we go. Play online. So every day there's a new puzzle. And each one has exactly 6 solutions. So here's the puzzle. And I'm just curious if you see any. I've got one here. Okay, and then if it's a set, it goes up here. So these are all the same color, all different shape, all different filling, all different number. So you go through each attribute. Anybody else see one?
I've got one, Julie.
Okay, go for it. Just tell
Well,
me.
The single purple squiggle with lines,
Okay,
the single purple oval,
okay,
and the double purple, or is that blue with lines?
this one in the middle.
Yeah,
Okay, now that would not be a set. Listen why. Number, they're not all the same and they're not all different.
oh, okay, right.
Yep,
So
yep.
then-
And that's the thing that eventually it's like, oh, okay, so let's see.
so I could I do the three, nope, I couldn't do I could do the two diamonds though.
Okay, the green diamonds or the striped diamonds?
The striped,
Okay, so do these two and
the single squiggle.
not the single. Well, what are you gonna do with, okay,
Well, I was thinking because they're all different shapes,
okay,
but I was going for the line filling.
okay, so let's go here. And
Okay.
now these three that I just popped in there, they're all the same number.
Okay,
They're all different shape, different color, but they're all the same filling.
gotcha.
Okay. It takes a little time, but anyway, I want to show you one more, and I know we're past our time, but the last one I want to show you is Ultimate Tic-Tac-Toe. And if I can get back to my screen here, this is another one of our favorite games, and we found it online. And basically, if you've ever played tic-tac-toe, this just takes it to the next level. So it's a tic-tac-toe in each tic-tac-toe. And normally when my students play, they literally just make something like this. All right. But you'll notice here, it starts off, what happens is if I'm X, and if I place my X in the center, that forces circle to make a move in the center. They have to put theirs in the center somewhere. If they put their, I don't even know who started on this one. I'm trying to figure out because it doesn't make sense. But, oh, X must have started because they kept everything in the center. So circle came here and they sent X to the upper right. X put theirs back in the center, sent circle to the bottom left. And then eventually it looks like this. Now, the online one, when we found that, we're going, oh my gosh, here's what your options are. And we did this together in our little groups. We want it to be 3 tiles in a row because that makes it more interesting. And we played against the computer. And then my kids just took turns. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start, and I put that there. So now X sent circle here, circle put theirs in the middle, circle sent X because they put it in the right middle over here. So I'm going to put it down here, which sent circle down here. They sent me over here. We'll put them here. They're sending us here. Circle sending us to the middle. We sent them here. They sent us here. Eventually there gets to be strategy. Ooh, that was not smart on my part. They left us here. So if we block them, now they've got another one here, okay? Where do you think they go? I'm gonna go here. They're sending us here. Go here because then they're gonna get this square.
Julie, while you're thinking about what's going through my brain is, I think about how much my kids love chess.
Yep.
And just how much our kids love thinking, like anything you can set up for them that can foster a situation where they can think, whether it's philosophy that
Yep.
Anne presented for us, or it's these games, they really crave those opportunities for thinking.
And I think that's why we fell in love with this, and how we did it online is my kids, you know, we had their grid and we went in order. So for example, I would say, Anne, where do you want to place it? Kim, you're next. Where do you want to place it? And so, and then here's the deal. If they got stuck, they tried not to because they don't like to get help, but they would ask for help. And what happens eventually is you can get it, the strategy is you can get it to the point where no matter what, wherever the other person put theirs, you end up winning. So bottom line with Ultimate, you have to get 3 complete games in a row. So eventually, and then the one thing I was going to tell you is if a block gets taken, let me just take one. Whoops. I was trying to see if because if a block gets taken, like this one, now nobody can move onto this blue block on the right. But if you accidentally send someone there, they get a free move. So you don't want to send anybody there either. And so the strategy gets, yeah, like if I would send, if I put it here, now Circle can pick anyone they want, and they went here and got another one. So they've sent me to the middle. If I put it, whoops, nope, they sent me here, sorry. No, they didn't, they sent me here. They went up here. But if I go here, now they've won. So yeah, it gets really intense. But anyway, that I'll leave that with you guys. That's a free, and I'm gonna send you all those links. I'm gonna put them actually, that was my last screen here. I didn't even realize how late it was getting. I apologize. Anyway, we just want to make sure. So what I'm going to do, if you guys have access, I'm going to pop these in the chat, and then we'll put these with our resources as well. And when we get those set up online, I'm just trying to find the chat box again. I keep losing my chat box, you guys. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. And Julie, so just to let you know, I know our wonderful volunteer Allison was here earlier too, and I think she was kindly offering to help us compile some of these, and so we will certainly get this information out to people in the next few days. So
yeah, and I'm not sure that I think we probably have everyone's email that's here, so we can make sure we send them direct.
Yep.
But the other thing is, if we put it in that resource page, if we put a resource page even on for this, then we'll have it. So awesome.
Yes.
All right, guys. So again, let us know either if there's something else you would like to know more about in a forum. We just wanted to provide you with a few activities. If there's something you're going to be able to use, and if you try it, share and let us know, because we're excited to hear how things go. So questions. Oh, I'll include some of these too. These are tribons, but all right. I think we are about done. What do you think? Kim, you got any questions? We went through it fast. I think you're muted, my dear. I think you're muted, Kim.
I see that. Thank you. I wasn't sure what it was listed in the chat earlier. It was an interesting word, a picha kucha. I had no idea what that was.
Okay. And I don't know if she's still here, but pechakuchas are
Pechakucha.
they're slides. Like you do 20 slides and you get 20 seconds for each slide. And so basically it's all timed, and they automatically move. So the whole idea was, oh, there. Okay. Is that you, Stacy?
Yeah, it was originated by 2 gentlemen, from what I learned about it at the conference in Minnesota. It was originated by 2 gentlemen in Japan who had to do a presentation, and they wanted to do it in a unique, more unconventional way. And so it's a presentation that originally it's 20 slides, 20 seconds per slide, and you only use visuals. Not to say you can't use some words or phrases, but the idea is to try to use visuals to present on a topic, but you can also modify it. So, you know, you can have 10 slides, 10 seconds each or whatever. I have my 3rd graders do it for my parent presentation day in the spring. They do a pechakucha for their parents on what we did in GT for the course of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's time. So you do have to, I mean, it's supposed to be, you don't necessarily manage your slides. It's supposed to be automatic so that it is just, you're on your toes, going, going, going.
Yeah, you
Do you
set your
create that?
slides.
Do you create that in Google Slides or PowerPoint or?
We
Oh.
did it in PowerPoints at first, so then you would set your timer for the 20 seconds, so it would automatically fast forward. So
Okay.
they have to practice, and they can have note cards or whatever, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's fun. They really like it.
Does
And-
Google Slides
yeah.
have timings? I think you can time that as well. I'm not sure.
It does when you publish to the web. It gives you
Okay.
timing options for the Google Slides.
Okay.
But the online adaptation that I've made with it, because you want the kids to present their information at the same time, I use Screencastify and
Yeah.
they use their webcam. So while the slides are running on their computer, it's screen recording with their little picture in one of the corners that they choose, narrating the slides. So you get their narration and it's all done online.
Nice.
Okay.
And then it's a little